Here's another one where I find really interesting. We've covered a couple topics of this, but fraud, con men, in this case, a con woman, okay? This has been getting a ton of exposure lately again, but Elizabeth Holmes.
Who is Elizabeth Holmes?
You don't know who Elizabeth Holmes is?
I've heard of a few different
The name might sound familiar or something.
It does sound familiar,
Yep.
and I've heard of a few female con artists. I feel like there was like a surge of it, like on Netflix. Like there's been a couple that have
Yep.
come out, documentaries or mockumentaries or something like that, of like a few female con artists, but I don't know which one this is.
This is a white collar, very high end con man, con woman, criminal, and the amount of fraud and deception in her is just insane. And what makes this even more interesting is that I truly, based off reading some background into her, looking into how she was raised, the things that happened to her, I truly believe that she believes her own BS. Okay, so we have Elizabeth Holmes here, was born on February 3rd, 1984 in Washington, D.C. Her father, Christian Rasmus Holmes, fifth, was a vice president at Enron. Everybody knows of Enron, okay? It was one of the dirtiest, scummiest companies out there that didn't care about public safety, didn't care about their employees. All they cared about was the bottom dollar, okay?
What's Enron?
Oh, gosh, that's a whole other story
Yeah,
in
but
itself.
what is the industry?
Gas.
Okay.
Well, I mean, they end up getting into everything, but gas, energy, all the human needs, okay? It was a multi-massive corporation, and they ended up going under for fraud. There are documentaries written about it and everything, and he was the vice president, okay? So this is setting a stage here.
Interesting.
And that company later went, bankrupt, and after an accounting fraud scandal. Her mother, Noelle Ann, worked as a congressional committee staffer. So this family is so prestigious. I mean, he's the VP at one of the global leading companies in the world, not the nation, in the world here, okay? And then you have her mom, who is a congressional committee staffer, part of the government, rubbing elbows with all our government figures and personal servants, okay? Well, Elizabeth Holmes was born with a silver spoon in her mouth. She knew...
Clearly.
Yeah, everything. And to the point where her parents were building her, which is really strange, but her parents were building her to be a business mogul. Like, I can tell by looking at the decisions of what they did when she was younger. Okay, so everyone knows where the direction the Chinese are going and the Asian countries are going, and how many different resources they control and everything, and how they have the manpower and the manufacturing and everything over there, right?
Did you know that China owns the pork industry in the U.S.?
Yep, I did know that. That's one minor company. They own a ton.
I just thought that was so weird.
Well, China speaks Mandarin, okay? So they were having her learn Mandarin to be able to promote their business.
That's really smart.
I mean, it's super smart, but I kind of feel like it's super messed up unless she was choosing to do it on her own. Like, parents don't build a kid into what they want them to be, okay? You guide your kid as they figure out what they want to be. This is going to cause trauma. This is going to cause issues in somebody. This could add to the potential leading of a con woman.
Yeah, because they're forcing her to be what they want her to be.
They are, with a silver spoon in her mouth and getting her in business, piano, violin, all the silver spoon amenities that come with it. You know what I mean? So
yeah, because learning another language, I think it's important for a parent to encourage their child to do that. But like forcing them to learn a very specific language because you want this future for them and you're going to mold them.
Yeah, it just comes down to them choosing it or the parents, and the parents were pushing this, okay? And I forgot to say, too, that she comes from generational wealth, big-time generational wealth. Her great-great-great-grandfather created created food or
He
condiment.
created food?
Hold on. I got it here.
He's why we have
Yeast. Okay, he created yeast that is still the number one used yeast today for baking. Okay,
The brand?
the Yemen's or something like that. It comes in a reddish jar and it has a yellow label on it with red writing. It stands out a lot. Well, her
Yemen's?
Yemen's. Her great grandfather created that. Okay, and their family was really proud of this. This created generational wealth, and then each family member after that just had more and more and more success, okay? So, here you go. Silver Spooner has everything in the world, has never had a day without, okay? And she's never had to worry about money. She's never had to worry about anything a day in her life. And why I think that's important is because we've seen time and time and time again when a kid grows up that doesn't have any struggle whatsoever, they have a little bit of sociopathy there. They expect everything in the world to be given to them. You know what I mean? And like everyone walks through the world with their hands out to give them whatever they want, right?
Yeah.
Well, she continued on with phenomenal grades. You're talking straight A student, some of the best grades out there. Yes, Fletchmans.
Yes,
Fletchmans.
That's not Yemen.
Okay, well, whatever. Fletchmans. But I got the rest of it right.
Yeah, the look of the jar is right, but Yemen's was way out.
Well, I got the amount of letters in the word right. Yemen's is the same amount of letters as Fletchman's. But
no,
anyways.
It's not.
Yeah, it is.
Yemmen.
So, going back to our story here, she followed the right path to, be successful, be an industry mogul, and she started getting really inspired by, she got into Stanford, okay? So,
of course she did.
Big time. Ivy League, amazing, phenomenal. These are the leaders in the U.S. type school, whatever.
Like
and
every
all
other
her
rich
family
kid.
has the money to back it, okay? Well, while she's in college, she is pursuing, I believe it was a medical degree, chemical engineering. So yes, it had to do with the medical industry. So she's pursuing that, doing really good and everything. And then
I know exactly who this is now.
Yes, and then in
the medical industry told me everything.
Yes, so and then on October 5th, 2003, everything in Elizabeth Holmes' life has been going right up until now, okay? October 5th, 2003, the police of Santa Clara County Sheriff's Office receives a call at 10:05 p.m., and it was Elizabeth Holmes calling in an assault. So she had been SA'd, okay, at Stanford. And she kind of changed from there, you guys, which I think is expected with anybody that's gone through something like that. And like I was saying, she's been given everything that she's wanted her whole life, and then to be so out of control in a situation, I think was a major turning point in her life. Now, I've seen a lot of people cover this story, and I feel like I don't see a lot of people put enough emphasis on that event there. That event, in my opinion,
was the switch.
Was the turning point here, okay? So she, after that event, in who knows how long, it could have been only a couple minutes, she now truly knows what it feels like to be out of control and to your money to mean nothing and that you're just another human being. And what an awful way to learn it in 5 minutes. After being given everything you want in your whole life and everything else.
You've had safety, security.
Yep.
You've had everything. Been fed to you with a silver spoon.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then it's all gone in a
all
second.
gone, out of your power, no control whatsoever. She's not a big woman. She's a small woman. So, any average-sized man would be able to overpower her in strength pretty easily, unfortunately. So this is a really sad situation. Now, she is She is an awful woman, okay, but we can still feel bad for somebody going through a situation like this. Now, it is 100% on her that she didn't take care of this at the time, but okay, from this time, we start seeing Elizabeth change, okay, as we would expect. She has always had interest in these industry moguls. Like, she was literally obsessed with Steve Jobs, you guys. That was like her idol, okay? Her idol, to the point where she started literally dressing like him, and we'll get to that point. It is wild.
I know,
dude.
it's super weird.
And that's why I wanted to put so much emphasis on that SA situation, because the transformation she makes is cuckoo. Like, it is bananas. It is so insane. And so she has that SA, life-altering change, and she starts changing a little bit, and she stops going to class. According to Elizabeth, she was SA'd by a peer that was in the school. So again, to me, that makes sense. Why would you want to go to class at risk seeing the person? And SA was so hard to prove even now, and then back then.
What year was it?
03.
Okay, so she didn't file a police report?
She did file a police report, but she was still in school with that individual. So I don't know the details of that. I pulled up the police report, and it has been redacted per request by Elizabeth. It says literally.
So she filed a police report, and we have no idea if the person was charged, convicted?
No, because it's been redacted. So it says event of 03-279-004. All details have since been redacted. Sunday, 10/5/2003. So it gives us the time, the date, the location of occurrence was 550 Lawson Mall, Stanford. Description redacted. Description of property, weapons, none. Reporting party, Elizabeth Holmes. Deputies were dispatched to an alleged sexual assault. All other details have been redacted. So no details. We have nothing. We have no idea how bad it was. Nothing at all. But this was a major turning point in her life. So she stopped going to classes. She stopped going to school, okay? She goes to her parents and promotes this idea. And she's going somewhere. Like, she is a very smart woman, okay? Just because she's made disgusting, hideous, horrible mistakes doesn't mean that she's not smart. She is brilliant, you know.
Well, she carried them out because she was so intelligent.
Yeah. People still to this day, after everything, still look back at her and are like amazed at what she was able to achieve, you know. So she went to her parents and said, hey, look, I have an idea for you guys. I don't want to finish school. I want you to take all the money that you're investing in my school, and I want you to invest it in my company, okay? Parents turned her down, was like, no way, you're going to finish your school before we talk about anything like this. And then she's like, well, surprise, I already dropped out of school, so this is really our only option, right? So I have no idea how long it took for her parents to be bought into it, but they were eventually bought into it, and there starts Theranos, okay, her company. And she has this great idea that she works with professors and peers and people from Stanford that she went to school with, promoting this idea. And this idea is incredible. It is an amazing idea, okay? So instead of going to get your blood drawn, you guys, and I don't know about you, but I'm terrified of needles, and I can go through literally any amount of pain. Maybe it has to do with being diabetic, I don't know. But, like, pain doesn't scare me, but needles terrify me. And when I get blood drawn, I tell them every time, look, you need to get your orange juice ready and get me a bed because I'm going to pass out. You know what I mean? And she came up with a device where all you would have to do is prick your finger like a diabetic, a baby tiny little prick, and that little tiny blood drop would tell you everything the needles would of getting your blood drawn in those tubes, okay? Genius idea, right?
Yeah.
Like, amazing. If we have the technology here where the computer can read that small of an amount of blood, like, why are we not already doing this? It's insane. Think of how much money you would save for less test tubes and everything else. So, So she pushes this idea. She gets people at her school bought into it, and she creates like a rough draft blueprint. She starts taking it to investors, and she starts making money here. And she
Yeah.
created it in March. Go ahead.
I would love to have something like that because, like, I suffer with anemia. Like, I become anemic so easy, and I become severely anemic and have a really, really hard time raising my levels. They always prescribe me, like, super high doses of iron that really mess you up when you take them. So, think about how incredible that would be for, like, people who suffer with deficiencies or, like, you know, like diabetics have it, but we don't have it for anything else to be able to check it. And I would be able to monitor my levels myself without having to make an appointment so that the doctor can see me so that they can, you know, request labs and all that process.
I don't think it wasn't as simple as an at-home version. It was only in like doctor's offices and things like that.
Yeah, but think about if you could have a diabetic device that you can have at home to keep track of it, but you still have to go to a medical professional, or you could have online professionals that read it and are like, okay, so based off that, I'll prescribe this. Or,
if you can create a device of this size, okay, which was an incredible size of what she created, and have it be successful, it's only an amount of time before it would become an at-home version. So, yeah, I think it's a revolutionary idea, and it sucks she tainted it because I bet someone would be able to create this thing.
Eventually, yeah.
So she starts it in March 2004, and she's doing all the work, the engineering, the creation, working with her professors and everything. And by September 2009, she has some people bought in on it. Some people are investing, supporting her. She has Ramesh Sunny Balwani joins Theranos as her right-hand man. And this guy has a ton of experience getting investors. So the investor party is really just kicking off from here, okay? At one point, she had like almost $10 billion of investment money into this.
Oh my
gosh. And so, yeah. September 2013, Holmes opens up about Theranos announcing the Walgreens partnership. Walgreens buys into this device, you guys.
Way.
Yes. And
Walgreens?
Yes, and the devices were actually in all the Walgreens across the country. And it's also part of the reason why Walgreens took such a financial hit, too. So Walgreens has since closed down their blood stations because of this, okay? That was September 2013. September 2014, Holmes is named one of the richest women in America. She owns over 50% stake in her startup, pinning her personal wealth at $4.5 billion. $4.5 billion, okay? She started this in 2004. In 2004, it was just an idea. In 2014, she was worth $4.5 billion. Wild.
That's so crazy.
On the top 100 richest women's list for Forbes.
Yeah.
So.
Of course she was. That's incredible.
Yeah. And December 2014, Theranos has raised $400 million alone just in their device, okay? And as you're listening to this, we'll be posting pictures of the device here. And, it is really, really, really incredible. They would take it around to boards. They would take it around to companies. They would take it around to trade shows and tell people, look, we just need a prick of your finger, or prick on your finger, a little drop of your blood, and we'll get you your test results right out, okay? July 2015, Theranos gets approved for a herpes test. So now they're adding on to that device, okay? And by the way, that device's name was Edison. And I think that's important because that follows along that same idea of these, like,
geniuses,
revolutionary, changing people for humankind. You know what I mean? And what you guys need to realize is, I think that helped her get through her trauma believing that she had what it took to be one of those people.
Be a Steve Jobs, be a Edison, be somebody like that.
Musk,
She's like, I got essayed, so I'm gonna boss up. Like, I am going to be the revolution.
I don't think it was that obvious in her mind.
It's subconscious, clearly. There's always a subconscious element, and I'm really like trying to think what that was in her mind, and I'm not entirely sure. I put my finger on it yet.
Steve Jobs.
So you think she fixated?
Yes.
She got essayed. She had trauma, and she fixated on him specifically.
I do.
And yeah, but there's something else there. Like,
I don't think so, you guys. Okay, Steve Jobs notoriously came out on the keynotes, okay, and would present in his turtleneck, whatever, and his glasses and, you know, his hair a certain way and everything. And he had this very specific voice and calm attitude. And, you know, everyone that knew him said he was real disconnected from other people. And his mannerisms were really awkward. He never blinked. His stare was so intently when he did look at you in the eyes. And most time he didn't look at you in the eyes. A lot of people believe that he has
autism.
A form of autism. So she started transitioning into that, and it became more and more and more and more present where you guys, she literally started changing her voice. So many people make fun of her for this, okay? And if you listen to a keynote of Steve Jobs and look at how he's dressed, how he holds himself, how his hair is, how his voice is, and then pull her up next to it, she's literally copying Steve Jobs. Everything.
She is impersonating Steve Jobs.
Yeah, I think her idea of who she is got lost that day that she was essayed. I think something broke, okay?
Oh, that's so funny because I've actually heard about this before. So, people who go through an extremely traumatic event, and if it's a lot of times it is like a sexual event where you get hurt in that way, they will disassociate, which can cause mental issues where they can have a loss of self.
Yes.
Where they will have like a multiple personality disorder, and I'm not talking about DID, which that is kind of like an extreme form where they disassociate and their mind fragments into these different personalities. But there's other forms of it like that where they lose themselves and they can be so lost, like borderline people do this, where they will almost like go through these phases of their lives because they don't know who they are. They will adopt like and fixate on this one idea or this one person and become them.
100%, and that's exactly what I'm thinking happened here. And like for you guys listening, okay, why hers was so extreme when this happened to her is because of how she was raised beforehand. She had zero experience with any adversity. She had zero experience with any minor trauma to learn how to cope minimally.
SAS already so
traumatic
for anybody.
Yeah, but if you take someone that's grown up with issues and having to overcome things like somebody from the hood and they get essayed, I can almost guarantee you, now I'm not a professional, but I can almost guarantee you somebody that has dealt with trauma and issues and has gotten over it will get over it easier than someone that has no experience like her. Been given everything her entire life. She expects people to give her everything. She expects people to bend over backwards for her. She expects the world to be given to her, and then to be assaulted in that way.
I think it
is much more damaging.
But I think it was the loss of control specifically.
I can't theorize what exactly it was. I just know that I've seen some of these situations before, and coming from somebody that has zero experience of any stress, anxiety, anything like that, situations like this are way more extreme.
I think you got to be careful though, because saying more trauma makes you be able to get over trauma easier and be like end up better at the end of it. Like, it's kind of dangerous to say, because the more trauma,
that's not what I'm saying.
The more trauma, the more.
That's not what I'm saying.
That's not a good thing.
Yeah, that's not what I'm saying.
Yeah, I know. I don't think you are, but I think it could be taken that way.
Okay.
I don't know.
So where her flaw was she did not get help to get over that trauma, okay? When somebody has been through a traumatic event, okay, something much smaller, they have learned smaller ways to cope and now have experience coping with trauma, okay?
Somebody who's gotten over it already.
Who's gotten, not SA, but gotten over anything traumatic, something small traumatic, and then can cope small. It's the same idea as raising a kid. You know, you allow a kid to go through small things so they can cope small, and then that escalates as their life goes
like
on
the
and
Bambi
things like
movie.
that. Well, yes. Well, she has never gotten over anything small because she's had everything. So that makes this experience more traumatic in this situation because she has no tools of coping, no understanding of how to get over anything, and probably doesn't even know something's wrong, which is why I'm saying I think she believes her BS. I really do. Her excuses, minimizing the human experience, making it seem like, oh, you know, whatever was going on here, I wasn't the one that was leading this. I was just leading the company. Like, dude, everything she says is just BS that comes out of her mouth. But
real quick, the Bambi movie, like, there's a theory that when you put like really hard things in movies, like a character dying, it can like help a kid learn how to cope with it in real life when something bad really happens to them. I just wanted to say that. Mm-hmm. But go ahead. You haven't even explained how this was a con.
Yeah, yep. So
I don't know what happened with that.
Yep. So this is what we're starting to see with her behavior.
Sure. Over the last 11 years, we've reinvented the traditional laboratory infrastructure. And we talked to our lab team, and they said, okay, you can do the draw. And so they did this, what would have been a finger stick on this little nub on his arm. Sure. Over the last 11 years, we've reinvented the traditional laboratory infrastructure with a mission to make...
She's sitting like Steve Jobs there, by the way.
I noticed the body language immediately.
Yep.
And healthcare systems throughout the world. And as we thought about this, we focused very much on the question of access to actionable health information, because laboratory data drives 80% of clinical decisions, yet it's not accessible. Yeah, you know, one of the first people that we served came into our wellness centers was a quadriplegic, and came in asking if they...
So immediately, like... Okay, when it's her real voice and, like, more real self, you can tell she's not confident at all. She's so drawn in with her body language, and it's like a normal female voice. And then when she's in her Steve Jobs persona, she's, like, up and confident and talking with her hands. And she's, like... and even the nod and, like, the deep voice. Like, what?
I'm telling you,
it's so strange. It's so distinct and clear, like impersonation.
Dude, it's so cringe. It's so cringe. Everything that she does is like, oh God. Anyway, so I just wanted to give you guys an example of the lengths she's willing to go through here to be fraudulent. And again, I truly think that she's buying into her own BS, you guys. I think that she believes this here, okay? So this is where the fraud is, all right? So she has the machine that tests the blood, Now, she's gotten it partnered with Walmart. She's gotten over $400 million in investing into this. She is now worth half of Theranos' worth, which is just under $10 million. And here's the kicker, you guys. That machine doesn't work.
Okay, they straight up tested it on people at like public events, so it was all fake results the whole time.
It was all fake results.
So it did not work at all.
It worked 1 out of every 300 tries.
No, that's the real number?
That's the real number. It's like 240 or something, 290. So yeah, 1 out of 300 tries.
Oh my gosh.
It didn't work.
How did nobody catch on to that?
I don't know. And I also don't understand that. Okay, looking at this scientifically, okay, it worked once out of every hundreds of tries, okay? Mm-hmm. How can we repeat that one time? Why was she and nobody else in that company focused on, okay, we got it to work that one time. Like, we got it to, how do we repeat it? How do we make it more reliable? How do we break this down, update, fine tune, change the software, whatever, to get this repeatable process here? And I think that she was so caught up with the image, she didn't care if it worked or not. It wasn't important to her. She was getting fame. She was being put on the front of magazines. She was in her turtleneck. She was talking like Steve Jobs, and, she was
making money,
doing her thing. I mean, she always had money, so a lot of people
but to be on the Forbes list, like the status of all of that and the attention.
A lot of people think that it was about the money. I don't. I don't think money had to do with this at all. I don't think it had anything to do with it whatsoever. I think to be looked at as a leader in invention in the way that these other guys that she looked up to, she would have given all her money for. I truly believe that.
Yeah,
I think it was about the image.
Well, yeah, with her basically impersonating, like mimicking Steve Jobs in every single way, that I think is 100% what it was about.
Yep.
It was that image of being like a trailblazer.
Yep. So, okay, people start catching on to this, okay? There were, and what's crazy is Theranos knew about this, so that the machines weren't working. They weren't doing what they were supposed to. They were literally going and testing real vials after the fact to give real results. So, like, board members would come in and they would prick their finger and stuff like that and go get results, have them go to lunch, come back in, and then like, results are printing out. Like, literally fraud, going way out of the way to commit this fraud to get these investors bought in, you guys.
But if it's just a prick of the finger, how did they get a real vial of blood from that person to get a real result?
What do you mean?
Because, like, were they like, let me...
medical stuff is in there, so...
What do you mean? It's just a prick of the finger. So how did they get a vial of blood to test to actually get the real results?
No, they could get their real blood results anywhere, is what I'm saying.
Oh, they would go in the computer?
Probably. That's probably how they were doing it.
Oh.
But we know that they were getting, like, past information data of this blood and using that with the prick of the finger. Like, how exactly they were doing the sleight of the hand isn't important. It was proven over and over and over that the sleight of the hand was done. There were multiple internal documents and complaints that this fraudulent stuff was going on, and Theranos went out of their way to hide them and suppress everything, okay? So this machine did not work, and they needed their investors to be bought into it, so they were playing a magic trick. They were doing the old Texas swap on them where they took their dot of blood, they went and found their results, and then, whoa, print, so amazing, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And people were buying into it. So, October 2015, there is an investigator from the Wall Street Journal that finds these complaints, these internal complaints, starts digging into the company, okay? Theranos slams back at them and tries discrediting the investigator, but the gig's up by now. So in November 2015, Theranos and Safeway's partnership falls short. They had originally invested like $350 million into building clinics in hundreds of their supermarkets, and eventually the blood test looked like it wasn't all it cracked up to be, and they decided to pull back. January 2016, federal regulators take issue with Theranos California lab, and Walgreens pulls back. So they cancel their partnership. CMS threatens to ban Holmes. Things are falling apart, and they start falling apart very quickly now, okay? She gets threatened by the leaders of the community that they're going to ban her from the laboratory business for 2 years for this. And she ends up getting banned, you guys. Like, she gets banned where she can't do any testing whatsoever, okay? Her and her CFO or whatever, Balwani, the guy that was supposedly the mastermind behind all this, both of these individuals turned on themselves. Like, they turned on each other. She came out and said, I was having a sexual relationship with this guy, and this guy was controlling me, and he was making me do all of this stuff, and I didn't believe in it, and like tried passing all the blame on him, and he tried saying the same thing about her. June 2016, after being on the Forbes Top 100 of Richest Women, Holmes' net worth is revised to $0.
What? No way.
Yep. How embarrassing.
That's
How
sad.
embarrassing.
Sad for her, but she didn't deserve any of it, so.
Nope. She's a con woman, man. July 2016, Holmes is banned from running labs for 2 years. The company tries to recoup and come back with the mini lab device. They end up getting sued by their investors. Walgreens sues them. The agency that controls like the lab regulations sues them as well. Arizona or CMS sues, and they have to settle. And like, she truly does lose all her money. She loses everything in all of this, okay? In March 2018, she gets charged with fraud. Finally. Gets charged with fraud. So, look, you can see where she goes back to her normal dress.
As soon as she gets charged?
Pretty soon after, she marries a new dude, and she loses all of the black. She starts wearing mom clothing, and she's going through court, okay? So now she has major charges under her belt. Theranos is it's losing money left and right because of all this fraud. She stops wearing black altogether, gets remarried. She gets charged and finds out she has to do jail time, okay? Like real jail time. We're looking at 11 years of jail time here. Even in the state that she's in with good behavior, it only is like a 25% reduction or 30% reduction. So the minimum amount of time that she could serve is like 9 years, okay? She knows this. She knows something's going on, right? So she gets pregnant and uses the pregnancy to stay the court hearings and starts showing up late, not showing up at all. And she starts manipulating and frauding the court and the people around her. And a ton of people think that she got pregnant specifically to be, I spit everywhere, got pregnant specifically to delay having to go to prison. It ends up not working, though. As you guys know,
That's
she
so
ends
sad
up
for the
going to
kid.
prison.
It's sad for the kid.
Yeah. But what sucks on top of it is she's not even going to a real prison. She's going to the same prison Martha Stewart went to. She's going to the same prison that you get to wear almost regular clothing. There is couches and beds and TVs, and it's a hangout. It's like they're in a clubhouse, you know, and that's the prison stay that she's in.
Of course.
Rich person's life, let me tell you.
I know. It's so unfair, isn't it?
It's super unfair in these situations.
If prisons were really
criminals,
I agree. Because if prisons were really like that, like where we see in other countries where they almost have like their own little apartment and they have to like go to work every day, like they make them become a member of society.
that would be amazing.
Think about
to
how
hear.
good that would be. Like, we wouldn't be sending dehumanized, illy treated, traumatized people who've been in prison, gangbanging, doing drugs, prison fights, like all in this intense, stressful environment where they always got to watch their back.
Agreed.
Like, they come out and it's like shocking. It's like, and they almost want to go back in a lot of times. Like, it doesn't work. Our prison system literally doesn't work at all. It's hasn't worked since the beginning.
I agree with you.
It's the basis of it is flawed. The idea of it is flawed. It was created to keep slaves. Slaves. Like, they literally were like work camps for slaves. That's what it started as. So, I mean, it's just not fair at all. Messed up.
To this day, you guys, she has never admitted any fault whatsoever in this.
Of course not.
And she still makes excuses. She has changed her voice back. She now dresses normal. So obviously that was all fake, fraud, BS, and we just have another situation here where, in criminal justice and the legal system, I feel like when you break the law, you should be treated the same as everybody else. Everybody should be treated equal in these situations, okay? And we just see that this isn't the case. Maybe because she is paying the prison system, I don't really know. But, I do know she's no Steve Jobs, Edison, Bill Gates. You're just a rich girl who was born with a silver spoon in your mouth and tried frauding the world.
Yep.
And you got what you deserved.
My voice broke.
So.
Yeah, she did.
She did. But let us know what you think about this, you guys. Was there a way to prevent this? I read a lot of different areas where it says that corporate auditors should start looking at like psychological markers and factors of their board members, CEOs, CFOs, things like that, to see where there might be some issues going on, right? Because clearly her behavior showed there were some problems here. Her change in clothing, all those things stood out. People teased her about it for a long time, but nothing was brought up in that. So should a psychologist be part of the audit system? Maybe.
Maybe. I mean, especially when you have people investing millions of dollars into something. Billions. It's crazy. It's insane that she got away with taking that much money from people.
Yeah. She is the con woman. The con woman of the century.
Yeah.
For real.
Straight up. Yeah. That's wild. Like, the clear, like, change of persona is crazy.
It is.
It's shocking. Like,
I know.
You're like, what is going on in your head, lady? Anyway,